Cutback for Vasilev and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal in his Union debut? The record signing! Off and running in his first appearance for the club! Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and you're Philadelphia Union, a 2025 MLS Supporters Shield winners, defeating New York City by a score of 1-0 last night, thanks to a goal by Mikael Uhre. Mikael Uhre, of all people, right? And I don't think there was a better fitting way last night than Mikael Uhre scoring that goal, a player that's got so much crap from this fan base, Jose. So much crap from this fan base since he's been here in 2022. So many people online, oh, he misses this, he misses that. Oh, he's not good enough. He's this, he's that. He shows up big in a big moment where the Union didn't have a ton of chances, right? And it's a deflected shot. But it's a typical Philadelphia Union goal, Jose. It's a turnover in New York City's defensive half, started by the Union's arguably two biggest players this season. I know we can get into that argument. I know we talked about it months ago, Jose. These two players, Jovan Lukic and Danley John Jock. But that is Philadelphia Union-esque for the Mikael Uhre goal. And what a way to wrap up the Supporters Shield with that goal from Mikael Uhre. So I've mentioned his name twice. Jose Nunez, you guys can see it live every single podcast. Jose, it's been a while since you've been on the show. I feel like this may be the first time you've joined the podcast since we've had the new intro. Maybe not. But Jose, how are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it's been a minute. Obviously, you know, in my personal life, I travel quite a bit for work. People who watch and listen and consume my content, your content when we collaborate, know that I'm on the go a lot for work. And I just was caught in a big stretch of just travel to the West Coast. So I'm just glad to be able to join you. And yeah, how poetic, right? That it was Uhre who went ahead and got the game winner, who once again will be a free agent at the end of the season come January 1, when the Union hopefully have a trophy over their head as well, having raced MLS Cup. But long way to get there. But obviously a lot to talk about last night's game. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't beautiful, but it got done. And that's all that really matters for a team that continues to, over the years, have had hiccups when it matters most.
Yeah, they have. They have. And I talked about it last episode or 2 episodes ago when the Union lost to Nashville in the semifinal. Look, we don't have to rehash that. We all know the records from the Union in semifinal games, falling short in finals. Last night was essentially a playoff game, Jose. Was essentially a playoff game. Yeah, if the Union didn't win last night, then they had the opportunity to go down to Charlotte, win that game, you win the Supporters Shield. But what better way to do than do it at home, Subaru Park, your last home game of the regular season. Now you clinch the Supporters Shield. Unlike in 2022, the Union will have home field advantage at Subaru Park, where they've been dominant. 12 wins at home, complete opposite of what it was last year. Only 4 home wins in Subaru Park, which is insane to say. Insane to say. You and I have been following this team, covering this team for a while, Jose. Last year was untypical of the Philadelphia Union. You know, when you come into Subaru Park, you're going to get a rowdy, ruckus crowd. You're going to get a tough place to play. And it just seemed like everybody and their brother was coming in and getting all 3 points in Subaru Park last year. It's not been the case this year. And at the same time, right, we saw it last weekend down in D.C. Union get their 8th win on the road. And this team feels special, Jose. We know under Jim Curtin that this team the last couple of years has been dominant on the road. They've been very good on the road. It continued this season under Bradley Cornell, and I think that's no surprise when you look at the veterans still on this team, and Kai Wagner, Jacob Glesnes, Andre Blake, Alejandro Bedoya, Mikael Uhre. They know how to get it done on the road. They also know how to get it done at Subaru Park. And Blake, Glesnes, Wagner, Bedoya, Bizo, they know what it's like to lift a Supporters Shield. But this time, they do it in a full-packed Subaru Park, and all the players are talking to us after the game just saying, man, this is so much heavier than the Captain American shield back in 2020.
Sorry, I had to unmute. Yeah, no, man, and that's just it. It was such an incredible culmination, and I know we're going to talk about what we got to see but couldn't share with people in terms of images and videos in the celebration. But just how great it was to see the veterans get to share greatness with the new guys and also the young guys who sort of have seen this team from when they were very young, right? I think of Kevin Sullivan. I think about some of these other kids who have gone through the academy and have gotten to the stage. Eddie Davis was there. Neil Pierre was there. Um, uh, um, you know, just incredible. And honestly, even the people behind the scenes that we know, right? From very, very incredibly important roles to maybe, I hate to say lesser, but not maybe on the technical side or even in the planning side, that are just completely hands that make things tick and talk for that club, that we're in tears, that we're just extremely happy. We're eager to give hugs and share the moment with people, even like fresh like us, that like how unbelievable it was for this club to finally get to do it right, and not with a makeshift trophy that was there in its all glory. It was just awesome. I'm so happy that I was able to be there. I had a very hard time trying to figure out how to get there, but I got there.
Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to make it to Subaru Park. And as some people joked, yeah, of course, you show up for an important game, Jose. You show up when it matters most. But
What a
uh,
fucking comment that was, huh?
what a comment it was! What a comment it was! But Matt Kelkenberg, nice to see you, Matt, joining us, chimes in and says, "Make the Supporters Shield mean something in the U.S. They won the Premier League / La Liga / Serie A, etc. We need a parade." And the one argument you get from fans in MLS is because you don't play every single team in the league. I get it. It's a fair point. It's a fair comment. The schedule is a little bit unbalanced, but there is still something to be said, I think, Jose, for 33 games to be this consistent, to get 20 wins, which is a franchise record, 20 wins. And they still have a game to play, right? They still have a game to play, 66 points. If they go down in Charlotte in 2 weeks and win that game, they'll be on 69 points, which passes their total set in 2022 at 68. So, I mean, this is a team, and you and I remember this, Jose. In 2022, every single game we're talking about, oh, the Union broke this record, the Union broke this record. And it seems like it's not really been the case this season where we're talking about the Union breaking records, but they have been, Jose. They have been quietly breaking records. And I thought there was a point, right, where they could have potentially have conceded the fewest amount of goals ever in a 34-game season on the road. Then Vancouver happens. But this team, and we'll talk about it, how good they've been defensively this season. The last 6 games, really, I know, minus the Vancouver game, even better. But this is a team, 20 wins on the season, new record. You have 8 wins on the road, new record. Like I mentioned, they have the potential to get 69 points, which would be a new record. This team isn't the flashiest. This team has no superstars, and Bradley Cornell, Bedoya, Blake talked about it last night, how they're not getting the respect around the league, national pundits, because they don't have the superstar. The team's a superstar, Jose. And I think back in 2022, it was still the same thing, but I think there could have been an argument that Daniel Gazdag, Julian Kranzer were the superstars. Fantastic season from those two. And don't forget about Mikau. I mean, the front three carried the Union back in 2022. But now this season, it's 18, 19 different goal scorers. The goals are spread out. Yes, Ty Baribo leads the team in goals, but it really does feel like the team as a whole is the superstar.
Yeah, I would even add Jose Martinez in there too, right? A Venezuelan international starter day in and day out with international breaks. And at the time, Venezuela looking in a very good spot. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be for World Cup qualification. Viva Bolivia, carajo. But, that just all of these players back then in 2022 felt, I don't want to say bigger than what most of the players in this team now feel, but the reality is that like the combination of all of them just feel like such a such a different squad and such an under the radar squad, right? Because again, you don't have Julian Carranza, who comes from being, I guess, a U22 signing to suddenly being, like picked up for pennies via Miami. I know we got some Miami folks here with the battered herons. Thank you, appreciate you jumping on.
What's up,
But
Chris?
yeah, it's just fascinating to see how this collective and I know we're going to talk about it, Todd. Just the way that this team was built, and of course there's all the comments and the jokes and whatever of like the build of this team and how cheap it is and how inexpensive, etc. But the reality is, like, this is a perfect showing about how it can be done, right, with very very little compared to others. I mean, what was the final, or what is going to be the final stat line on Emmanuel Latela, right? Like, what's going to happen there? What's going to happen with some of the guys out in Chicago? Denke as well. Obviously, he's going into the playoffs, but I guess Atlanta is the biggest culprit of just incessant spending for no good reason. Never mind Toronto over the past 2 to 3 years, whereas Philadelphia, last year aside, steady, focused building architecture from top to bottom to build something that can be sustainable. And when the pieces need to be ejected for value, and what's the players want their own, and that's fine. Their keep, I should say. Like, okay, like, great. Let's shift you over somewhere where they will take care of you. We will go ahead and try to find something that works for us, and they go ahead and do it over and over and over again. It is unbelievable. So
Yeah, I agree. And you and I have talked about it so many times on this podcast. We've talked about it on other podcasts, Jose, where Jim Curtin, Ernst Tanner specifically, got a lot of shit from the fan base and from certain people in the media for, he didn't go out and have a good window. And it's like they couldn't have a great window. And we don't need to stay here and try to defend Ernst Tanner, because we've done it in the past. But it's like, you look at the bigger picture, some of the contracts and everything, they literally didn't have the space. And what did the Union go out? They get rid of a lot of big contracts, and then they suddenly open up space on the roster to go out and get a Jovan Lukic, to go out and trade for a Milan Elaski in the summertime, or buy him from Denmark. And you get rid of a Daniel Gazdag, who was looking for a new contract. That's a big, bold move. Your all-time leading goal scorer. You look at the contracts that are out after the end of this season. Mikal Uhre being the biggest at $2 million, scores a big goal last night. The game-winning goal, back-to-back games for the first time this season for Uhre, scoring in those games. He's playing for a new contract, whether that's with the Union, whether that's with somebody else. And this is exactly what the Union want. It doesn't matter who's out of contract. It doesn't matter how long you're tied up for. You want these players getting hot in this moment. Mikal Uhre getting hot. Bruno Damiani getting hot. Quinn Sullivan out against DC United. That's a big blow. But time and time again, and we'll talk about it later on in the show, Jose, where looking at some key wins for the Union, how they got here, how they won the Supporters' Shield, looking at some of those moves. People on the front office who don't get enough credit, didn't get enough credit at the beginning of the season by this fan base. And I'll go ahead and say it, right? I don't know if I said it on a podcast. I don't think I wrote about it, but I thought this team would be a playoff team. I was thinking more so 7-8, not winning Supporters' Shield. But to his credit, too, last night, Bedoya even said, I didn't think we were going to win the Supporters' Shield. And to the credit of these players, believing in Bradley Carnell, a new and old coaching staff where you have some of the coaches from Jim Curtin's time, and then Bradley Carnell brings in a couple of his guys. You get a mesh of new ideas, fresh ideas. And this is what you get, Jose. You get a Supporters' Shield. 2 Supporters' Shields in the last 5 years. A lot of comments coming on the show. I appreciate it, you guys. We'll try to get to them, but we already figured that this is going to be a long show. Yes, we did have a bit of a delay starting the show. That's on me. I apologize. But we're here. You guys waited along. I appreciate that. But, man, just so much to talk about this season, Jose, and it's not done yet. And fans know that. It is not done yet.
Kai Wagner knows that, based on the question we asked him. He was very clear.
Yeah. He said, and which is interesting too, because I couldn't hear Bedoya when we were huddled around him until I went back and listened to the audio. You're right. It's completely different. Wagner doesn't want to talk about his goals, and I think I actually have the clip lined up later on in the show where Bedoya is talking about wanting to win MLS Cup this season, and Wagner's like, "We're taking it a game at a time. We're taking a game at a time," and that's exactly what Bradley Cornell said pretty much all season long. So it is interesting that you have some players saying the opposite, but we know deep down the goal is MLS Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point of sort of the mixing of the blood, right? Of like the coaching side specifically, you have a Phil Whedon who's obviously world renowned for what he does and with the goalkeepers. You have goodness, Frank Leicht, I believe is how you say it. I could be wrong. I'm not German. But then you also infuse someone like a Mitch Hildebrandt, right, coming from St. Louis with Bradley Cornell, and then Sean Rooney, also coming from St. Louis. So you're sort of mixing, what's comfortable for Cornell, what's going to be comfortable with the score that's there, and then sort of enhance it, right? So it's just so great to see all around just how it worked out. And I guess I can probably just get into it right away. Like I had asked Kai Wagner, and actually even Andre Blake, I think, alluded to it. I didn't outright ask it, but like it sort of jogged my memory. Like Andre Blake and Kai were the two loudest about wanting this team throughout the years to want this team to have a bigger and bigger investment in terms of the fans deserving better, the team deserving better, having the depth, having the players needed to go on a run in terms of winning any type of silverware. Goodness, should Nashville have gone a little different, maybe we're talking about a different conversation altogether with two pieces of silverware over their head instead of just one. So, Kai was very clear of yeah, I mean, it's great that we got these players, but the reality is like, this is nice, that the shield's nice, but there's just so much more to play for. And that's the mentality that he's keeping in line with others versus, like tracking back a couple of years, or like, it's just a completely different tune. And maybe that's the rinsing that was needed by, and we love him, but the rinsing that was needed in terms of washing off the old regime, and in terms of Jim Curtin and bringing someone fresh who can revitalize and get that first year manager bounce. And Bradley Cornell and his staff have certainly done it.
Yeah, they certainly have, and again, we can hit on that later on in the show. I mean, we have so much to get to, and I know a lot of people are going to want to talk about the season as a whole, and trust me, Jose and I do as well. But there was a game last night, because that is how the Union won the Supporters Shield, and so let's go ahead and get into that. As we all know, I've said it a couple times on the show. You guys watched it on Apple. You guys were there at Subaru Park. I would assume a lot of you. Union defeat New York City by a score of 1-0. Mikael Uhre scoring in the 40th minute. Sorry, and yeah, I mean, it's a big goal for Mikael Uhre, a player that hasn't started as much as he has in the past, right? A player that started the season off starting with Ty Baribo, but then once Bruno Damiani gets fit, gets healthy, starts to learn the style of play, we see the partnership of Baribo and Damiani for much of the season. But now you look the last two games, Jose, and we can get straight into that. I think personally, this was the Union's best starting lineup last night. And I know that is crazy to say with Ty Baribo on 16 goals. How can you say, yeah, that's the best lineup when Ty Baribo is not in there? But I just think the partnership between Bruno Damiani, Mikael Uhre, we saw it last weekend down in D.C. with Mikael making those runs into the channel, Damiani crashing the box. Damiani would make a run or two occasionally out into the channel with Uhre crashing into the box. They have a really good understanding. Not that Uhre and Baribo don't have a good understanding. We saw it at the beginning of the season. They do. But we've seen the Mikael Uhre Damiani partnership more than we've seen the Baribo and Mikael partnership the last couple weeks. And so I think you got to keep riding the hot hand. I really do, Jose. And you look at the rest of the starting lineup, it's not much different than what we saw last weekend down in D.C. Andre Blake in goal, Nathan Harriel right back, Glesnes and Makanya as the two center backs, Wagner left back, Danley and Yervon the two sixes, Indy and Milan Alaski as the two tens, Uhre and Damiani up top. So the only change from last weekend was Mikael in for Quinn Sullivan, who unfortunately has a torn ACL, has not got surgery yet. He let us know last night, but that doesn't mean he's going to play people. He's out for the rest of the season. The Union announced it last week. He's done. We all know. We wish Quinn Sullivan the best recovery, and I'm glad that he was there last night in the building
in uniform
with the team, walking around with the team, celebrating happy. And I'm like, please don't slip, Quinn. Don't make this worse. with all the liquid on the floor, with all the alcohol, all the other beverages. You have the Wagner kids, the Glesnes kids throwing ice at people and everything. So, I mean, it was a sticky, wet mess in the
I took a cork to the head.
So did I.
Yeah.
It hit off me and it hit somebody. Maybe it hit you. I don't know. But I was like, what? Who did this? Who's the culprit? Maybe you should get blunder of the week, but you're not going to. Have your moment. Have the moment to celebrate. Like it is fully earned. But yeah, last night's starting lineup, I have no problems with it, Jose. Like I said, I think this is the lineup that you got to ride with. I think this is your best lineup. Yeah, the Union don't create a ton of chances, which leads us into the next point in a little bit, how well they play defensively. But this is what the playoffs are going to be, Jose. It's going to be limited amount of chances. You got to play strong defense, what the Union are doing. You get a chance or two in the playoffs, you got to bury your chance. Union get it with Uhre. Yes, it takes a deflection, but you've got to take your chances. And Mikael Uhre does last night.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It was 100% a playoff game, which I guess New York City's rise, New York City FC's rise through the season and how they've grown and ultimately find themselves Todd, like fourth in the East right now? Is that what they're at right now?
Who are we looking at? Sorry.
New York City FC.
Fifth now.
Fifth, okay. Makes that loss out in at City Field not look that bad in reality when you think about, how great yesterday's win with all the context around it feels and was. I think in terms of the lineup, with what is left or what was available, yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying, and just a total aside too, poor Frankie Westfield out in Chile, probably celebrating on his own the Supporters Shield victory out there. So congratulations to him. Hopefully he comes back with a World Cup and the opportunity to get an MLS Cup. But I have no problems with this lineup. I think that, to your point, the Damiani Uhre partnership does really sort of has blossomed into something really cool, right? In terms of Damiani being the hold up play, and then if it's on as they switch and they flip and they move back and forth from left to right, letting Uhre sort of run the channels to stretch the field and let the team sort of come up. So I can't wait till we spend some time talking about Jovan and Danley, because my goodness, what a game the two of them had, and ultimately the absolute metronomes that were needed for that win yesterday in terms of when to go, when to slow down, when to play back, when to play forward. Just absolutely did a great job in terms of doing that. And for me, I know it was Uhre who got whatever the man of the match by the club. I don't know. I guess the Sons of Ben vote. I don't know, but like Lukic was unbelievable yesterday. Just such a quiet, sneaky good performance, as Jim Curtin would say. Just a very, very good showing by him.
Yeah, that's true. And you look at the vision. We talked about this at the beginning of the season, Jose, the vision from Jovan Lukic. I mean, it's unbelievable. From number 6, I mean, he's like a deep lying playmaker. The passes that he can pick out from such a deep position, he can move forward. We've seen more so Danley John Jock, I feel like, the last couple months, which is fine, right? You have 2 number 6s who are comfortable with the ball pushing in the attacking half. That's what you want to see. I think Jose Martinez would thrive in a system like this, where he has the freedom to push forward, where, okay, if he does get caught off the field, he has another teammate back to cover for him. Because we saw it how many times, Jose, the last couple of years, Jose Martinez just running down that right channel, running forward with the ball. He would turn it over, and now the Union are susceptible to the counterattack, and you have Glesnes and Elliott having stepped, they get burnt, and now you give up a goal. I'm talking specifically last year, that happened multiple times. And I really do think Jose Martinez would love playing in this system with the Union. But you have, arguably, and yeah, I'm a little bit biased, playing that position, number 6. I mean, if you have a steady number 6, in the Union's case, steady number 6s that can protect the back line, that can protect the spine, you're set. That's half the battle. You get 2 center backs that are decent. You get good goalkeeping. You're really going to set yourself up well in MLS. Makani has been a breakout player, and I've seen the comments on social media this morning, this afternoon. People are like, "Oh, if we would have played Makani more than we played Damian Lowe last season, then we would have gotten in the playoffs." And look, you don't know that, right? And I'm not going to fault Jim Curtin. I know a lot of people in this fan base want to fault Jim Curtin for not playing Ty Baribo. But can you fault him really when you had Julian Carranza? Julian Carranza has done so much for this club. Julian hardly ever came out. And yes, people are going to say, well, then bring Baribo in for Mikal Ua. But I think Baribo and Julian Carranza are too similar, just like you see it with Damiani and Ty Baribo. And so, yes, those players can work and everything. I get it. But at the same time, there was a lot of mistakes that Makani made for Union too. None bigger than the final against North Texas. And that's the life of a young center back, a player that's, I would argue, that's getting used to a country that's never left South Africa before. And that's got to be so daunting as a young player like Makani. I think he was, 18, 19 when he came to the Union from South Africa. That's really difficult, leaving your home country, leaving your family behind and having to adjust. And he had an episode with Sage Hurley on the Dupe talking about how it was a learning experience with him with Union 2. He did his time and everything and eventually paid off. Now you look, fantastic season from Makani. I'll be curious to see where he winds up in that under 22 for 22 list at the end of the season. A lot of pundits have him in the top 5. I think rightly so. You and I, Jose, still can't figure out why he's not getting called up to South Africa, but we're continuing to beat that drum. And not to throw you under the bus, but look, you also didn't believe in Makani. I mean, who did? Who can say in this fan base and the media, yep, Makani was going to have the season that he had? And Ernst Tanner took a lot of crap the last couple of transfer windows. But time and time again now, he's showing I still know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and to my defense, it's hard to vouch for a guy who's playing, with all the respect to MLS Next Pro, playing MLS Next Pro, making more money than I think at the time even someone like Nate Harriel. So kind of at the time, or a couple of guys, whether it was Nate or not, maybe it's irrelevant, but making more money as a U22 signing than some of the guys who are or were on the squad. And this is my official apology to Olwethu Makanya. My friend, I treated you so wrong. I disrespected you thoroughly. And now I see you can ball. And maybe you'll take us to the promised land. You'll take this team to the promised land, Todd. Maybe he'll do it. Just can't have a mistake like the MLS Pro Cup. That MLS Next Pro Cup mistake, let's not do that, Olwethu. Don't do that to your teammates. And my apology. I think hindsight being 2020 is obviously one of the most beautiful things, but like it's impossible, right? Like, we don't know behind the scenes what was going on with Baribo. We don't know what type of mistakes Olwethu was making at practice during the Jim Curtin times. And you and I have said it all the time. We talk to enough people behind the scenes that know ball way better than us, that work in the industry, that know the industry in and out. But I think it's so true that everybody's path is not linear to get where they go. And I think Olwethu's one of them. Baribo's certainly one of them. The path is not the same for everybody. And I think that's maybe what has attributed to some of these guys that have come in this year and just, again, flourished under this leadership of Bradley Carnell and maybe the mixture of Bedoya, Blake, et cetera, being there and just sort of pushing them along. So it's such a great thing. And I don't know, I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what this group does here in the next couple of weeks. It's just sort of difficult to want to wait, considering the momentum with an international break here in between, and then Charlotte, and then basically going into that best of 3, and then another break because of an international break. It's just a lot of starting and stopping that I'm sure the players would hope doesn't get in the way of what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we take a step back, right, New York City had chances in this game. I mean, none bigger than the second minute, where you see Jacob Lessons and Nathan Harriel both get caught up high in the field, and now it's a through ball played into Wolf, and then Wolf cuts it back to Martinez. Blake comes out, a goal forces him out wide, and then he just completely misses the target. And that could have been devastating for the Union, right? They could have been down 1-0 2 minutes in, and what does that do to the atmosphere? Does it take the sting out of the building, which it was a pretty loud crowd before the match? I mean, I'd said it. It felt like a playoff game. It essentially was a playoff game. You win, you get a trophy. And we've seen it so many times. There's a meaningful games at Subaru Park. New York City scoring first. You saw it last meaningful playoff game against New York City, where New York City scored in the second half, and then the Union come out and score with, was it Gazak first, then Carranza, and then Corey Burke to make it 3-1. I mean, it was a wake-up call the Union needed, and maybe that's exactly what they would have got last night. Yes, we saw the Union go up in 2021. I don't know. You guys in the comments fact check me. I believe the Union scored first in that game in 2021, and then they give up 2 goals and a player that, look, we don't want to crap on players this game. You guys know the player that gave up the goals against New York City in 2021. It's all coming back to me. We all remember the COVID party, the Union, more than half the lineups out. If they would have been healthy, if they wouldn't have went out and went to a party to celebrate, they probably would have beat Portland. That's neither here or there. It happened. It's in the past. But the Union do have history against New York City. That's the point I'm making. And that was a big moment for New York City, a really big moment. Andre Blake comes up with a big save in the 19th minute. And I had said to you, Jose, in the press box, I'm like, I feel like he could have caught that. Sometimes I feel like Blake makes some of these saves that he just wants it for his highlight reel. Like, wow, did you see that save by Andre Blake? Instead of just palming it, just going down gently. It's this acrobatic save. And yeah, maybe his vision was shielded. Maybe he saw it late. He makes a save, keeps the clean sheet. But New York City had chances in this game. The Union had a goal ruled for offsides with Ty Brewer, which maybe should have been blunder. You had fireworks going off, the Dupe song going off. The linesman has his flag raised up. The players are walking backwards. They know it's offsides, but the music's still going. The fireworks are going, and all I can think is Jay Sugarman's like, well, we're not getting a young DP next season. There goes all of our firework budget because you guys prematurely let off fireworks. Come on. And then New York City have a goal ruled off, and you felt for the moment the sting go off, Jose, where the fans can't see it. We could see it, that it looked pretty clear and obvious from our vantage point that it was offsides, but the stadium didn't know it. And wow, I mean, can you imagine if the Union would have conceded late? And we've seen it multiple times this season into Miami, Columbus, and I know that will make Chris happy, into Miami scoring late at Subaru Park to tie that game up at 3 apiece. But the Union have also scored late goals to go and get wins. And again, we'll talk about that later. Some of those meaningful wins. The Union do enough to hold on. And Matt Freese came up big in this game, right? I don't want to discredit anything from what New York City did defensively. The Union, from my liking, didn't create a ton of chances. They take their chance with Mikael Uhre, do enough to squeak out the 1-0 win. But Matt Freese had a hell of a game. I mean, that shot from Malosky in the first half, and you said it, Jose. It's like nobody on the Union should be throwing up their hands. Nobody on the Union should be complaining about Malosky shooting from distance, because he's earned the right to do that. And Matt Freese shows time and time again why he is, for the time being, the #1 goalkeeper for the United States men's national team. There's some people in this fan base, some people in the media that I've heard say, "Oh, the Union should have held on to Matt Freese." No, they shouldn't have. Like they did Matt Freese right by letting him go, because he was just going to sit behind Andre Blake. Let him go someplace where he can fight for the #1 job. That was never going to happen in Philadelphia. And now look, Matt Freese is one of the best goalkeepers in MLS. He's earned the men's national team starting job, and love to see Matty Ice thrive. And last night, he was so close, Jose, from keeping a scoreless draw in last night's game, but it takes a deflected shot. His comments are going crazy, by the way, Jose. I mean,
Yeah,
I can't keep
I'm
up.
trying to like catch up, like trying to. It's great. I'm so happy that people are tuning in. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, your points on Matt Freese are actually maybe all too close to home per se with what's going on in Philadelphia now, right? I think it's almost getting to a situation like Matt Freese and Andre Blake all over again, but with Andrew Rick in terms of somebody who like what a piece of work. Yeah, this thing's always running. I honestly wonder if it's gonna die one of these days because this thing's running. I actually probably need to get up there and do the flipping of the switch so the heat stays or whatever the setting is, right? To like keep heat in versus like taking heat out the way that it spins. Um, but back to topic, Todd, please. Yeah, I wonder what happens with Andrew Rick. We've talked about it. I don't know that we need to go much further. It was some opportunities, not a lot of chance creation. We, I think we chuckled on the way or while we were waiting for Bradley Cornell, but like, who's going to be the one to ask him about why there was so little chance creation? It's like, that probably isn't an appropriate question considering what they just achieved, right? And how he wants to
I thought about
celebrate
it.
it.
I thought
Right.
about it.
But New York played a good game, and that's the reality of it. And it seems like Philadelphia and its fans, which is maybe the bigger topic around talking about New York City FC and really this game, the atmosphere on the night was just incredible. It honestly, again, felt like a playoff game. It was so great to see that the Heineken deck, which is sort of my measurement, like my barometer to see how packed it is and how the atmosphere is feeling. There were people genuinely just standing room on the Heineken deck, which is a pretty good sign of what things are looking like in terms of attendance. So I wouldn't be surprised if somehow this is like an over 100% attendance type of game. And I think that the players feel that. I mean, I listened to Jovan Lukic speak after the game with MLS Soccer or whatever the folks on at the stage in New York City, and he was very quick to say like it feels so good to win this in front of the fans rather than having to do it in Charlotte or something along those lines. So it's good that it got done at home and against New York City of all places. New York City FC, I should say, because I don't know that it's fair to really call Red Bulls much of a rivalry outside of the manufacturing of whatever the front offices try to make out of it.
Yeah, I agree. Red Bulls, I mean, they had their moment, Jose. They celebrated that win at Red Bull Arena as that was their playoff win. That was their biggest game of the season, beating the Union, first time since 2018. And yeah, I mean that's what Red Bull fans are going to have to hang their hat on is look, we locked into making MLS Cup last year, and I think it is funny too. You look, both teams that made the final last year won't make the playoffs this year. I mean, LA Galaxy officially eliminated, New York Red Bulls officially eliminated, and not to be the bearer of bad news. And I heard this mentioned on the broadcast a couple times. Only 8 teams in the history of MLS that have won the Supporters Shield have won MLS Cup. But I think a lot of fans, if the Union don't win MLS Cup, I think a lot of fans would be happy that they won the Supporters Shield. No more asterisk. They legit won the Supporters Shield. And to Matt's comment all the way at the beginning of the show, maybe there should be a parade. Maybe there should. If the season ends and the Union don't win MLS Cup, maybe they should still go down Broadway. Is that a fair place to have a parade, Jose? Just go down Broadway. I mean, there's no way the Union do it in Chester. Even though they play in Chester, you got to do it in the main street in Philly. I feel like
I'm gonna save you from the comments. I think you mean not Broadway. Now I'm fucking Broad Street.
Broad Street,
Sorry,
thank you. Yeah,
Broadway.
Broad
You
Street
had me
Bullies,
thinking
what
the
I'm
wrong
doing.
way.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, Broadway? What are you talking about? You mean Broad Street?
Broad Street, my guy.
No,
Definitely.
no.
I never claimed to be, by the way. Never claimed to be. This is
Just
why it's
stating,
Maryland's #1 Philadelphia Union podcast.
now the comments are starting to come in. Broad Street. No, listen. Nashville just held a celebration at the club for the U.S. Open Cup. Something completely separate. Granted, they had to go on the road and win it at Austin in interesting fashion. We don't have to talk about the penalty kick call there and the foul that maybe wasn't a foul based on being held. Actually, you know what, Todd? That reminded me, and I didn't mention this to you last night. Remember when Baribo got 2 yellows inside the box for holding? Was it like
Oh,
CONCACAF last year?
I don't remember this.
I'll have to send you the clips. Ty Baribo got 2 back-to-back yellow cards, I believe. I think it was CONCACAF Champions Cup where he held a player while he was trying to score. Like obviously they were kicking the corner in and he was trying to get a header. Nonetheless, should they make more out of this? I wish, man. Like I'm part of a couple of text groups of, writers, reporters, whatever. And a lot of them are very much your, Philadelphia. They care about every sport but the Union. And Mike Barrera, being part of one of them, mentioned, it's a big day. The Union did this. And a lot of the folks there were like, well, explain it to me like I'm an 8-year-old. And the immediate analogy that he used was, I guess it's called the President's Cup in hockey, ice hockey, best record, but not really winning playoffs, that type of thing. And immediately it clicked in their heads. So it was one of those things where man, I really do wish that they would make more out of this. And honestly, we've talked to before, or I've said before in different whatever settings, MLS is one of those few leagues alongside a few others where this doesn't get you a star over the crest, which is such a bummer. At this point, it would just be at the 2 or 3 stars, when you think about best records or close enough, maybe 3 if you count 2022 if they use the right tiebreakers. But just interesting that it isn't more than it is. It would be really cool for this to be held to a higher standard.
And I think you're starting to see it become more to the players. We've seen it the last couple Supporter Shield winners that seem to be taking this trophy serious. They should, because like Matt said at the beginning of the show, this is essentially winning the league. And I said it at the beginning, a lot of people have joined since then, that the argument people have is, well, it's not a balanced schedule. You're not playing everybody in the league. And I get it. That's the biggest complaint people have for why they don't value the Supporters Shield as high as they do. But again, consistency is key. And the Union have been consistent throughout the season with international duty, with injuries, and hopefully it continues.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, go for it.
Would you rather, and those in the comment, whether you're a Union supporter or not, or follow this team or not, and to you, Todd, would you rather win the Supporter Shield or the CONCACAF Champions Cup?
Champions Cup.
Okay. That's where I fall too.
Yeah, I mean, you're going against powerhouses in Liga MX and other CONCACAF nations. I mean, we agree. I don't need to explain it, but maybe some of the comments are going to feel like, why would you say that? I mean, I've said it years past in the podcast. For me, it goes MLS Cup, obviously, because it's your league, then CONCACAF Champions Cup, then Supporters, then Leagues, US Open Cup, then Leagues Cup, which maybe you can make the argument that Leagues Cup, if I'm valuing CONCACAF Champions Cup as high, maybe Leagues Cup should be up there. But it's like you play all the games here in America. Like, how's that fair?
Hoagie mentions that that's the easiest question ever. I don't know. I've had people tell me that they prefer the Supporter Shield because it's a longer. It's very much a marathon, where the Champions Cup is more of a sprint with little stops, right? In terms of the group stages and then the playoff, whatever, the elimination rounds and whatever. So I don't know. Listen, I'm just asking the question because I've gotten a variety of answers, and obviously I agree with you, right? I would absolutely prefer, and maybe I've turned around on it. Thanks, Hoagie. I prefer. I would absolutely appreciate the club getting a star over its crest because it's obviously incredible. But CONCACAF Champions Cup would be up there because, again, Pachuca and some of these other teams are just what incredible teams to compete against. And whether you realize it or not, the front office of Philadelphia obviously always working very hard, but Now they got to think about CONCACAF Champions Cup next year and the depth needed for that. So
Yeah.
something to think about.
For sure. It's a good question. So whether you guys are listening to it live or on the RSS feed, let us know in the comment section. Try to get to them on Spotify as much as I can. And I always get the notifications a couple days after you guys comment on Spotify. So come on Spotify. Let me know as soon as they comment on Spotify. But trying to get the show back on track. Mikel Uhre, because we did talk about Mikel a couple times, and I'm still not done talking about Mikel. I do want to play a clip from Bradley Cornell talking about Mikel Uhre. I want to play a clip from Alejandro Bedoya talking about Uhre. But again, I started off talking about Uhre, how he's a player that's got so much crap from this fan base. Oh, he misses too many chances. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. But the truth of the matter is, he's what, top 4 now in the all-time leading goal scorer list for the Philadelphia Union. Yeah, he's not. Maybe he goes off in the playoffs, and now every single year with the Union, he'll score 10 plus goals since he's been here. It doesn't look like it's going to happen this year, but maybe it happens in the playoffs. Maybe he goes off against Charlotte like Daniel Rios did a couple years ago, and maybe Mikel Uhre scores 4 goals against Charlotte. Who knows? But Mikel's 7 assists is what catches me by surprise. And yes, 2 of those came down in DC United. But it goes back to the point, Jose, where he does so much of the dirty work, stretching the back line, running into the channels. And it's the things that people never want to talk about. And it's the same thing with Bruno Damiani, right? I mean, you'll beat that horse until you're blue in the face, Jose. You can try to explain it as much as you want that Damiani does more than score goals, but that's not good enough for some people, and I don't think it ever will be. And you mentioned it last night. This is where Damiani's good at: drawing the foul, getting the Union in dangerous positions, dropping deep, collecting the ball. Like, just some people, they just don't get it. They don't want to rate a player unless they're scoring goals, and it seems to be the case with Mikel Uhre. And Mikel, 6 goals on the season, 7 assists. And I was trying to pull it up here. Maybe you can beat me to it, Jose. I know I'm kind of throwing you on the spot. Let's see if I can pull it up. Or somebody in the comment section. I'm about to have it here. 7 assists. That's surely got to be in the top second on the team. Mikel Uhre, 7 assists is second most on the team. Kai Wagner, 9, leads the team. Quinn Sullivan at 7 as well. So him and Mikel, chance creators on this team. I mean, who would have thought that at the beginning of the season that Mikel Uhre would be second on this team in assists? I mean, he does so much more than scoring goals. And Bradley Cornell was asked about starting Mikel Uhre, who Bradley told us on Thursday's press conference was that Indiana Vassilev and Uhre would potentially be questionable. We'll see how the team assesses them on Friday. And long and behold, both of them get in the starting lineup, which, hey, I didn't expect it, but just, I guess, believe the opposite sometimes of what Bradley Cornell says.
We've had a sequence and a rotation of strikers, and we've kind of gone with a hot hand at times, and then we've kind of just given faith, and Tyre Baribo's rewarded us so much early on in the season. And then, listen, Mika's always been there. He's always been ready, and I really enjoy that. And, I think whoever we play up there, I think we have because of the training, that these guys put in every day, everyone can step up at any given time. And my message has always been just be ready. And I think Mika's done that. He's been patient, and he gets rewarded over the last 2 match days. But I think, we reward each other. We give for each other. Ty emptied the tank at the end there, just giving everything. It's not easy to come in as a sub, and he was, just emptying the tank, him and Danley up top there, just to putting pressure on, and we had to survive and change the formation and a couple of times until we got control again.
Yeah, the Union did get control. They hung on, and it looked nervy at time, and they found a way to win. But Mikel Uhre had a great game coming off the bench against DC United. We saw him come off the bench against Colorado, and I thought, this is the moment. Jose scores 2 goals, wins the Union the match against Colorado. I'm like, this is the match. This is the match that Mikel Uhre is now going to make consistent starts. Doesn't happen, but gets rewarded last night after a strong performance against DC United and scores the game-winning goal. And you hear all the comments that Bradley Cornell talks about with, the players coming off the bench, emptying the tank, everybody laying it out to make sure the Union get all 3 points, win the Supporters Shield, and that's been the essence of this team all season long. Jose, is when players are out injured, players are away on international duty. So many players step up, and it happens last night. And so, uh, you can give thoughts on Bradley Cornell's comment if you want after I play Bedoya's, but Bedoya was asked about Mikael Uhre's season, and it is interesting. Two of the longest tenured players on this team, and you see Bedoya come in with Bizo, close things out, and I know Cornell was asked about that. The players were asked about that. Do you think that because they have the tenure, because they know what it's like to be in these moments, is that why Bradley Cornell made the switch? And Cornell says, no, we just didn't really have much. Like, this is what the game called for, and we went with Bizo and Bedoya to close things out, and it helped the Union keep that 1-0 clean sheet. But Alejandro Bedoya was asked about Mikael Uhre, and he had a lot of positive things to say about Uhre.
Stepped up in a big way. It's not easy to come into a game. You're not supposed to come in at a game in 15 minutes or whatever. Walk down to DC and come in and off the bench and make such a sudden difference right away. Is a credit to his mentality, and like I said, to credit to the guys who always come in and step up. I think that this is the depth that we have in this team has shown itself this season. And for a guy like Mika, maybe who's had it maybe tougher than others, it's a credit to his mentality. And like I said, everybody, it's staying in it, staying with the game, and trusting that whatever the coaching staff, the plan that they have is in place and sticking to it. And so credit to him and for sticking with it.
I'm just hoping this doesn't get pulled down from YouTube for playing non-copyrighted music or copyrighted music. But that's not my fault, right? I mean, that's just what happens when the blasting music after lifting a shield. But Bedoya says it best, right? And we mentioned at the beginning of the show where Uhre is not starting as much as he probably would like. But to come in to DC off the bench, pretty cold, and that's got to be so hard mentally for the players to see Quinn go down with that injury. But you know what? Mikel doesn't complain in the media. He doesn't complain about his lack of playing time, his lack of starts. Only started 15 games of his 28 appearances this season. But he goes about his business quietly, and you hear Bradley, you hear Bedoya both sing the praises of Mikael Uhre, and this is the type of player he is, right? He'll miss chances, he'll frustrate you, but he's not one to ever complain. He's one that, and he said it after the game, that I am a team first player. I will do whatever is asked for this team, and that's exactly what you get from Mikael Uhre.
Was it the 88th or whatever, 80 some minute? I think there was that play where it went towards the corner. I think it was a failed cross or something along the lines of that.
Oh, yeah.
And Mikael Uhre slides to try to keep the ball in and ultimately bounces it off of whatever defender was there in front of him. And I don't know if I turned to you or in my mind, I am thinking or remembering that I turned to you or whatever. But
last night, I don't think, because Uhre came out way before the 88th minute.
Okay.
New England, I think he did it against.
Yeah, well, he's done it multiple times where, I keep on thinking about Mikael Uhre, and I think it's going to be very hard to keep him, right? I think he's a player that's going to want to earn what he's worth, and ultimately, maybe becomes more of a gas tag situation than we think in terms of someone who can go to other teams and be a clear starter, considering the history that he's built in Philadelphia and the record, I should say. But I often find him and watch him and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, not the greatest finisher sometimes, but when he finishes pretty well. I think about his goal in DC that Iloski filters through, and he just does a really good job of slotted across. And granted, it was at that point, the fifth goal, I can't remember. But the reality is that whoever gets Uhre is going to get a very hard-working player that, if he remains fit, remains healthy and focused, I think he's going to continue to be a great MLS player from here on out until he eventually maybe wants to go back home and live over there. So again, you sort of alluded to it in the beginning of the show, just how poetic it was for someone who, some love him, some criticize him, some really dislike him, but ultimately was the difference on the night that got history etched onto metal, right? And it's just fitting that it happened that way. I don't really know what else to add. It's just so interesting how, fortune happens or fate happens.
So I do have something to mention. You had mentioned Latte Lot at, I don't know, halfway through the show, and I'm looking at his stats right here, Jose. 27 appearances, 23 starts, 7 goals, 3 assists, and I mentioned the numbers for Mikael Uhre. Only made 15 starts, 28 appearances for the team. He has 6 goals, 7 assists. Mikael Uhre making $2.2 million and Latte Lot making $4 million this season. I mean, how bad, dude? How bad of a deal is that for Atlanta? How bad, right?
Don't tell some of these national writers, right? Because it was the greatest thing since sliced bread for Latte La to come from the championship.
Yeah, I mean, Miguel Almiron's coming back and he's going to light it up just like he did last time. I mean, if you watch the Premier League, like, he had not been the same player the last 2 seasons, I would say, at Newcastle, and they were like, "Oh, you're going to give us $10 million for Miguel Almiron? We'll drive him to the airport for you. Do you want us to escort him through the airport at Atlanta, bring him to the offices for the medical? We'll do it for you." I mean, my goodness, right? You could pay half of what you do to Latte Lot and bring in a Mikael Uhre and get the same, if not a little bit more production. I mean, wow. Not to make this into a bashing of Atlanta United, but I just thought it was interesting. You had mentioned Latte Lot, and I had it pulled up looking at his numbers here, and I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and look at the MLSPA and see how much more he is making compared to Mikael Uhre.
A lot.
He's making double the salary. Yeah, a lot indeed. But yeah, Mikael felt like an emotional game, right? The last start for him in the regular season potentially for the Union is out of contract, and we'll see what happens, right? Is a player that's available for free agency, and I do think there will be suitors in MLS if he does decide he wants to stay. Will Philadelphia make a offer to him? I don't know if they can really justify paying $2.2 million. Would he be willing to take Tam? I don't know. I still think there's teams in MLS that would be desperate enough to pay him a DP deal, and maybe he continues to ride
DC
out.
United. DC
Exactly.
United.
Makes a lot of sense to me. It makes a lot of sense to me, Jose. Too much sense, maybe. Maybe too much sense. I mean, they did just get rid of the whole scouting department and the whole front office. So who knows what's going to happen with DC in this offseason? I mean, every single year it's something new with DC United. But I do want to go ahead and just talk about the defensive emergence of this team, and then we'll talk about how the Union got here, the Supporters Shield journey. We'll go ahead and look at some of the key players, mention just some of the big signings, and just the wonderful work that I think that the coaching staff's done, the front office has done. But defense, they say it, right? It's the most used cliche, I feel like. Defense wins championships. Look at the Seahawks, right? When they won the Super Bowls with that elite defense. In the Union, they had an elite offense in 2022, but they also had an elite defense. And in this season, they are the best defensive unit. And the 7 goals they conceded, Jose, I mean, it's such a blimp on, man, how well this team has played defensively. Conceded 33 goals, fewest in MLS in 33 games. So that's a goal a game that they conceded, Jose, and it could have been so much less if they don't give up 7. 5 clean sheets in the last 6 games, 14 clean sheets overall, which leads MLS. Andre Blake has 9 on the season. This team, Jose, is just dialed in defensively. And yeah, you had talked about who was going to ask Carnell about not creating chances, how they haven't been creating chances, I feel like, the last month or so. But does it really matter when you're playing this well defensively? Probably not, because as you go into the playoffs, you want your team playing defense as well. And so probably Carnell talked about what's been the difference these last 6 games defensively, what he's seen from his team.
Yeah, we've been proactive. we've been proactive and been connected, and we've defended from the front. Just think about the work Bruno's put in throughout the season. Just think about Ty Baribo, the work he's put in, Indy Vasilev, Quinn, anyone who's played in that position. Look at Choo tonight when he came in. Jesus Bueno, look what he did. He was a monster out there. So, everyone, whenever called upon, has done something to affect change and cause. And that's been the most rewarding for them. And I'm enjoying, seeing them celebrate.
A lot of shout outs there, Jose. A lot of shout outs.
No,
Shout out the team.
yeah, I mean, think about the way that this team's built and the way that this team has won things and the way that this team continues to sort of fulfill the Bradley Cornell way of playing, right? I know you and I talked about offline the initial press conference that Bradley Cornell gave. I was in South Carolina. I think you were in Maryland, or you were in Disney. I can't remember where you were, but like,
It was in Disney.
yeah, okay. The different percentages of the way that they're going to score, which when you really think about it and you flip it over, it's like, okay, that's the way that they're also going to defend, which I remember him talking about scoring off a turnover, scoring off of set pieces and open play. And the reality is that, like, all those different guys that he mentioned and the way that they defend are all attacking players first, meaning that, yes, they're going to do what they did last year in terms of, if I recall, Julian Carranza was the most yellow carded player, I think, in the team last year.
Yeah, he was.
Because he was the first line of defense, and he was a demon on a mission trying to close down players and just make it known that he was there to bother them every single time that they had an opportunity to take it out. Fast forward to this year and the way that they really shape the entire press to make sure that if they're going to try to play out of the back, which New York City tried multiple times, ended up leading to costly mistakes. Case in point, Ua's goal, the way that Matt Freese just sort of threw it down the middle and the Danley-Jovan combination finding Ua was the difference. It's exactly what Bradley's talking about, right? The top of the sphere is the first line of defense, and that's ultimately what I think is going to take this team as far as it has already and ultimately as far as it can go, which for Bradley Cornell and the players will hopefully be December, whatever, when MLS Cup final is, wherever it may be, hopefully Subaru Park.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about how the Union got here. I know this is a topic that both you and I want to talk about, and we've hit at it multiple times on the show, right, Jose? I mean, where to start, really, right? How did the Union get here? I mean, there's so many games that we can look at, and you can even look at the first two games of the season: 4-2 against Orlando, 4-1 against Cincinnati, 2-0 against New England. I mean, the Union come out flying, 3 straight games with a win, and I do recall earlier in the season, that is when the national pundits started paying attention to the Union, like, oh, we didn't see this coming. Undefeated, 3 games in, 3 wins. And then, let's talk about Miami. Yeah, there's Messi. Let's talk about Miami. Oh, look what San Diego's doing. Let's talk about San Diego. Let's not pay attention to the Union still being in a fight for the Supporters' Shield. And just, you and I know, Jose, I mean, just so many games. I guess maybe for me is the first game I would start with is St. Louis. 1-0, the Union win. Jan Glavinovic scores in that game in the 8th minute. A lot of players away on international duty, but
he scores and ends his season.
Oh, that was the game he got hurt, wasn't it? Oh, yes. No way. That's so disappointing. I forgot there was a game. Wow. Now you just killed the show, Jose. So
I'm sorry.
It's my name.
Oh God!
Wow,
sorry,
man. I feel bad that he wasn't even in the stadium to celebrate last night. Come on, Frankie Westfield wasn't there. Come on.
Or maybe I don't think Jan was, but
Oliver Zemla.
What? Yeah, Oliver Zemla is busy in North Carolina right now. Go on. Sorry to interrupt, Todd. It was just like, by the way, like that was the game that he scored and finished this entire season.
No, you killed the show. I kid. Montreal was a pretty big one too away. Mikel Ur, talked about Ur, 84th minute. So it was a late goal in that game, and the Union struggle in Montreal. And Montreal's been pretty good the last couple games and everything. Just how big is that game, Jose? I mean, these are two games that stick out on the top of my head. Is the St. Louis game, the Montreal game, but there's so many more, right?
Yeah, I honestly immediately I go to that, and I'm actually, I don't want to say deathly afraid of any one team if I was a Union fan or if I was a coaching staff or whatever. But one team that's in the back of my head, having watched them a few times writing for MLS and just, out of just pure curiosity because I like a lot of the team and the way it's built is Orlando. The way that they came off the gates with that Orlando win of that 4-2 away from home, and then ultimately got done with the Orlando back and forth a few weeks later with a 0-0 draw. Like that was a pretty good showing. Was the 3-0 against Atlanta? That was at home, so I take that back. The Riverhounds, and I know it's not MLS specific, but the way that they beat the Riverhounds was pretty convincing too, especially with the rotating cast. I was very, very impressed. But none more than the way that they took care of business. Hold on, I'm scrolling up for it. It wasn't pretty, but that September 20th win over New England, not a great team, not a good team against, well, Bradley Cornell will tell you every team is a decent team. But New England, not a great team, but coming off of one unbelievably bad result to 7-0, and then losing to Nashville to exit the cup, to go on and do what they had to get done to win 1-0, and ultimately give them this platform to go ahead and beat DC and then ultimately New York City, is maybe just as much of a turnkey moment in terms of getting the engines moving as it was to bring Milan Iloski over the summer. Sort of like one of those like apex moments, or whatever you want to call it. Just one of those moments where like, okay, maybe this is where the season really turned, and maybe this is where from here on out, whatever happens in Charlotte, hopefully it's a victory. And then playoffs, it's just a complete takeover. I maybe think that New England win, again, wasn't pretty, but maybe is the moment that just really turned on the Union.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that stretch. You mentioned Pittsburgh. I mean, the Union went down 2-0 at home on Wednesday against LA Galaxy, and the Union come back and win that game 3-2. And then they go down to Atlanta, where it's 0-0 going into halftime. Baribo scores a penalty to make it 1-0. Union hold on down Atlanta, which is a difficult place to play. And then they go and beat Pittsburgh 4-1. But don't forget, Jose, prior to the LA Galaxy game, the Union were coming off of a 2-2 draw where they gave up a late equalizing goal to Zawatsky. Kai Wagner, I believe, gets beat on the set piece. And so, I mean, it's a huge 2 points dropped in that game where, yeah, the Union come out with a point, but should have been all 3 points. The way that they played against Columbus in that game, the return of Daniel Gazdag at Subaru Park, if I'm not mistaken. And they go on. Play bad on Wednesday against LA Galaxy and score 3 goals in the second half, go down to Atlanta, then that Pittsburgh game, and then you come back home and it's like, oh no, Columbus all over again. You give up a late equalizing goal into Miami. You go away on the road to Toronto where you've struggled. And who scores the late goal in that game? Kai Wagner, 92nd minute. And so this team, I mean, so many moments where they show that, yeah, we may have little blunders, we may have silly moments, but we still find ways to dig in deep and get results. And yeah, that late spring, early summer, I mean, that's a good shout by you, Jose. I mean, the Cincinnati game, I think a lot of people are going to listen to away with the Union win 1-0. It's a huge result. Don't forget too, Charlotte, Marcus Anderson at home scoring the game-winning goal. I mean, the only appearance we've seen of Marcus Anderson, I think. I mean, just so many moments this season, and we're talking.
He was on the roster.
Yeah. Was he there last night celebrating? I don't know. Somebody let me know.
I didn't see him.
Photographer. Did you guys see Marcus Anderson? Now I got to look back on the broadcast and see if I saw Anderson. I didn't see him in the locker room, so Jillian, Kyle, I know you guys are listening. You guys should have asked Marcus Anderson at Union 2 today. Come on. Maybe you guys know. Somebody in the comment section has to know. Now I feel bad. I don't recall.
Oh shit! I mean, Eddie Davis was there, fresh out of Chile.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, Marcus should have been there. I mean, I saw Sequeira, I saw Soria. I mean, there's a random
It's all
YouTube guy.
stars walking around, and
Yeah, I saw, but he's hard to miss. Yeah, I don't think I saw Marcus. That's interesting.
huh? Yeah, I mentioned him scoring in Charlotte, and it's like, where's Marcus Anderson there? Does he
Maybe
exist?
maybe
Scored
he
a
had
goal
his
in
milk and cookies. He had his milk and cookies and went to bed early to go and play today. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so many moments. You guys let us know in the comment section. I mean, I feel like Jose and I probably went through all the games. We named every single one of them, and I do kind of feel bad because it's like we're talking about this moment. And it's like there's still one regular season game to be played, and then playoffs start. And I'm sure once the season ends, whenever it does, we'll come back having this conversation, Jose. But truth be told, I mean, like this team's found a way to dig in, and Bradley Cornell said it so many times. You know, it's a collective, the collective, and we really have seen a collective effort by so many players on this team. And I said it's the star. It is the star that is the team. Um, they are the superstar, the team itself. What else do I have to play? Soundbite wise. Oh yeah, this is really good. So I'll go ahead and play Andre Blake talking about what's been the difference with Bradley Cornell coming in. What's he's changed this season, and then I do have a clip with Bedoya that, again, I said it. I couldn't hear what Bedoya was saying in the locker room, but listening to the audio this morning, Bedoya says something pretty interesting, and I'll go ahead and make the post on Twitter tomorrow. I don't know if anybody's made it yet, but you guys on the podcast will be the first to hear it because Bedoya does have good comments. But this is Andre Blake talking about just what Bradley Cornell's brought to the team this season.
Bradley came in, and he made everybody believe, and I think what was most important that he keeps everybody on their toes. You have to perform to play, and you have to show in training week in, week out that you deserve to play. And he wasn't scared to play the young guys. He gave everybody confidence, and I think that was a game changer for us.
Not shots fired at Jim Curtin, right? Playing the young guys. It's definitely not shots. But yeah, I mean, no lies detected. We talked about Marcus Anderson. What happened last year after that blunder in Cincinnati? Got sent to the Shadow Realm and didn't stop Bradley Cornell from playing Marcus Anderson. Dips in, scores a goal against Charlotte, not to be seen from again. Hey, look, he plays his part. You have so many moments can say, yep, this is the game that won the Supporters Shield for the Union. But he's right. Sal Olivas played meaningful minutes on the road. David Vasquez, before he got sent away on loan, made his debut. Eddie Davis made his debut. Neil Pierre made his debut, even though that didn't really matter. You're down 7-0. But Bradley Cornell told us exactly what he was going to do. He trusts young players. That's what he did in St. Louis. And that's been one of the biggest things, in Andre Blake's opinion, is trusting the young players.
And he has been one of the loudest players to complain about, again, like I mentioned earlier, right, with Kai Bagner. Was it with Herculez Gomez and on ESPN the start of 2024 that it was Andre Blake sort of complaining about, ownership and wanting to spend more and bring more players in? I guess that happened, obviously, with Danley and Jovan and some other players, also the exits of some other ones that maybe we'll talk about later, Gastag, Jack McGlynn, etc. Players that maybe didn't fit the profile that the group needed. But I think it's pretty telling when you have a veteran of that stature in terms of Andre Blake, everything he has achieved, everything he has accomplished in his career, both domestically and internationally, though. He still says that the biggest achievement in his life would be for Jamaica to make the World Cup, and he has an opportunity to do it. For him to compliment Bradley Cornell after being with Jim Curtin for as long as he was, and being as probably close as he was with Jim Curtin, is pretty telling about just how well Bradley and his leadership has gone in and penetrated through the different walls and barriers in terms of getting people to buy in. And if he can get Andre Blake to buy in, I think he can get anybody to buy in.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, Cornell had talked about a big reason that he wanted Bedoya, or was proud to have Bedoya back, is because, and we heard Jim Curtin say this, he's the liaison between the coaching staff and the players. He's that middleman that's going to go to both and hear both sides and try to play mediator. And Bedoya has so much respect from his teammates, as does Andre Blake. I mean, the two longest tenured guys on this team, and they've seen it all. They've seen it all, Jose, and they've been around for so many high moments and so many low moments. And I guess that's a good segue into this last clip we'll play before Blender of the Week. Alejandro Bedoya was talking about what the Supporter Shield meant for him, but he has goals higher than the Supporter Shield.
When I first came here, talk was all about, we want to compete. We want to make sure we had some silverware. And, Philadelphia sports teams in general, they expect that out of their teams. And so this is just, another trophy cabinet that we can add to it, showing how successful we really have been as a club, as a team. When you look at, the number of points we've accrued over the last, 7, 8 years, if you will. So for me personally, I'm just so happy, so proud of the team, the guys that have come in this season, who stepped up in a big way. So credit to everybody who's been a part of the team, who's had a role to play. But like I said, I really want MLS Cup so bad, and then I can ride off in the sunset.
So that's the part that I want to talk about. Bedoya says, I want it so bad. I want MLS Cup so bad, and I can ride off into the sunset. And I was thinking about this morning, Jose, where you and I have been in the locker room the last 2 years where Bedoya is fighting for a contract and not so sure where he's going to play, and winds up coming back the last 2 years on 1-year deals. But it feels different this year, right? It feels like this is it for Bedoya. He talked about it last year where he feels good, that his body still feels healthy. But you really haven't heard those comments, and maybe it's because he hasn't been asked. But just seeing Bedoya play these games and take in the atmosphere when he subbing off or subbing on, it really seems like he's soaking in every single moment, every single game. And what better way to go out than winning MLS Cup? I mean, he was brought in here to change the atmosphere of the team. Chris Albright, Jim Curtin fly to France to convince Alejandro Bedoya to sign for the Philadelphia Union. If I'm not, he's still a big player for the national team. And to be told, look, this is our vision, this is our project in Philadelphia. We want you to be the staple player. Yes, we have Andre Blake, but we need a big national team presence. You're from New Jersey. You can be that guy, Alejandro Bedoya. And he's seen it all, Jose. He has seen it all. And yeah, Andre Blake's a player that is deserving, but I think of a player like Alejandro Bedoya that's meant so much to this country because of his impact at the national level. And he's meant so much to this team. He's literally changed the trajectory of the Philadelphia Union. There is no better story than Alejandro Bedoya going out than MLS Cup champion.
It's up there for sure. I still recall last year when we were at New York Red Bulls and him sort of calling out one specific reporter for basically trying to retire him early with the story that he was working on. And frankly, honestly, if you look at my draft of tweets and stories on Substack and on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, like, I've transferred every possible player. Ernst Tanner has retired, and Bradley Cornell has been fired. So, like, listen, I get it. Like, we all sort of pre-write things just to be ready on the on the off chance that something does happen, and we can be quick on the trigger. So, Bedoya earning a trophy after, and again, we talk about the way that things happen and how it can be poetic and how it can just be so beautiful and it can just sort of just make sense in terms of the narrative and the context of it all. When you take into account everything he has done for the city, whether you agree or disagree with what he has stood for in terms of gun violence, etc., the fact that he's an outspoken person, however that rubs you, it's somewhat irrelevant. But the fact that he has come in and sort of shape-shifted the trajectory of this team and the path that it went on, it's certainly not it's undeniable. But when you add 2022 and the heartbreak that was, if this is indeed his last season as a player, who knows what he's going to do afterwards in terms of, being a savvy businessman. I don't know if he's great at it or not. Obviously, Padel courts keep sprouting up across the country. So like, I don't know how much he has to do with that, but I think when you add the context of 2022 and the disaster, I think is probably the best word to say it for the players in the club that was 2022. If this was to be the year, it would just be the most perfect finish to a career like his in terms of what he did to change the mentality of this club and helping set the standard of what this club needs to do on a yearly basis. Never mind whether it was him or somebody else. I can't remember the quotes from yesterday. It was such a blur, but like over the 5-6 years, like the how they've accrued points and how good they've been ever since ever since he's been around. It's just, it would be the perfect way to go out, but that's not given, that's earned. And I think that's what Bedoya wants to make sure the players know.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it any better. You mentioned them, Danley John Jock, Jovan Lukic, and there's been so many comments in the comment section singing the praises, and it's been that way all season long. And man, there's just so many people in the front office that are doing a fantastic job. And this is the way that Ernst Tanner does business. This is the way that Ernst Tanner wants his team to do business, right? To go out there and find these, it feels harsh to say this, right? But these bargain bin signings, these players that are so far under the radar, nobody's heard of, and now they're making a name from themselves. I mean, Kai Wagner is a huge example. Jose Martinez. I mean, look, Jose Martinez wasn't even in the national team for Venezuela, wasn't even on the radar. And look what happens when he comes to Philadelphia. Jacob Glesnes is a player. Jovan Lukic is the latest player. How many people can say that they knew who Danley John Jock was? Yeah, I know there's a couple people that listen in Haiti. They say that they know who Danley John Jock is. And yeah, he was playing for a top 5 team or top 5 league in FC Metz. And so maybe Danley was a little bit more known than some of those guys, but Jovan Lukic certainly wasn't. And the partnership between those two has been incredible. And I said it at the beginning of the show, Jose. It starts with the spine. If you have a strong defensive midfielder, or in the Union's case, 2 strong defensive midfielders, you're setting yourself up with a lot of success.
Yeah, and the receipts are not gone, right? Of even people in our orbit, Todd, thinking about Lukic specifically, who doubted him, right? In terms of a player that has bounced around a lot. He couldn't cut it at this club and then was loaned again and was loaned again. It's like, that's irrelevant. Trust the people who know ball. Like if you're clicky-clacketing on a keyboard is very different than being someone who understands how a person's soccer can translate from one league to the other. And I wanted to ask it yesterday, but I felt like the press conference was running long. And Bradley has said it multiple times, so maybe it was an irrelevant question, should I have asked it, but how well and how quickly Jovan has broken all the rules of an MLS signing, right? Of it takes a season, it takes a half a season and change for a player to acclimate to the travel, to the conditions, right? Think about having to play in Texas in the summer and then coming back to the East to play in November. Think about how well Jovan has acclimated to everything that is MLS. I hate to say it, like, I don't even know what the question would have been. It's just like, what a key contributor, I guess is all I would have said to Bradley, right? What a key contributor Jovan was, not only on the night, not only on the season, but also in the locker room. I see clips that the club shares. I hear stories from sources about just how much of a personable guy is. I guess that Jovan finally, I wanted to double check before I got someone in trouble, but like, he stayed after yesterday cutting the grass with the grounds crew, just because he wanted to. he was out with the grounds crew cutting and resetting the field yesterday. So he's that type of gullible person who wants to be involved in all parts of, not because he wants to learn how to do what Mark Mello does, for example. He's the only person that comes to mind, as he posts so much on social media, but like someone had messaged me that like, oh yeah, he's out there on the tractors doing the grass stuff. It's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like he's sort of one of those players that elevates everybody. And again, like what a signing he was. If anything, like, is it fair to say that he's a season defining signing? I don't know, but like it feels like he's one of those key pieces that once he was brought on, it was just like, great. Like this is going to change the whole trajectory of the season. What a hit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is, right, Jose, like these players that are brought in, they're vetted to see, are they going to fit into this locker room? Because Ernst Tanner has said it, Bedoya has said it, Blake has said it. They do not want to disrupt that locker room. If you are not going to fit in with that locker room, they are not going to bring you in. I can remember a few years ago, Jamiro Montero. No way, there's a video. Is that Yervon? He posted that. Dude, that is sick.
Yeah, he's riding the tractor, taking care of the field.
What a guy. I think he was the last player, too, to go into the locker room after the game, too, because remember, he came into the locker room. I don't know if you heard it. He's like, what is going on in here when they were just popping champagne and bottles and everything? Yervon had missed that in the locker room because he was staying out, taking pictures, taking videos with fans, signing autographs. And fans were calling him, asking to take pictures. And he was thinking twice about it, but he was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. And he stayed out there and he missed all the celebrations in the locker room at the beginning. And this is a player that is totally embraced Philadelphia. This is a guy who is loved. He's talked about his love of Philadelphia. Just think about the videos that the Union posted giving him a tour of Philadelphia. I'm sure Yervon Lukic knows that it's Broad Street and not Broadway. So he has that over me. People that are just joining the podcast now, they're like, what is he talking about? You got to go 40, 45 minutes into the podcast. Yeah. Not going to let that go. Not going to let that go. You guys shouldn't either. Can't wait till somebody makes just clips that and posts it all over social media. And
Todd, this is another test. To get down to the football field or the Phillies, do you take the train from Suburban or City Hall?
I don't know.
Okay, there you go.
95 and park at the Jetcher lot.
Go on, carry on. Blunder of the week.
Yeah, not from Philly. No comment. I was going to say something, but that wouldn't have helped me either. But yeah, I mean, Yervon's a fantastic signing, and the point I was making is it goes back to Milan too, right? These players are vetted, and I was talking to Milan after DC United, and he talked about how he was a little bit surprised that he was embraced this much by the Union. He gelled this quickly, but he had said when you're a team flying as high as the Union were, there's a reason for that. And it starts with that locker room. It starts with the front office, vetting these players, going through a vigorous process, finding out every little thing they can find out about this player that they are going to or potentially going to sign. And those players wind up working out, fitting in so well. I can remember back in 2021, was it? The dust up that Jamiro Montero and Kai Wagner and Ernst Tanner had down in Miami. And then the stories start coming out that Jamiro Montero wants to go back to Europe. I think family issues was the reason that it was cited. And then he winds up getting traded to San Jose. I mean, they quickly diffuse the situation in the locker room, and they do not want to disrupt that locker room. And again, and it's just a shout out to how well this front office does, bringing in players that fit in. And I can't think of a player maybe bigger than Yervon Lukic, how much he's embraced Philadelphia and fit in with that locker room.
I don't know what else to add.
I know what to add. The banter between Kai Wagner and Yervon Lukic in the videos that they post where those guys act like they hate each other. I love it. And then in the locker room last night, they have Jovan and Kai taking a picture with the shield and everything. It's like, oh man, this is exactly what we want to see. The bromance, the war between those two guys are over. Then the next social media video we see out from the Union, they'll go back to hating each other.
It's so funny how this group has gelled over the year. Just thinking about, and this is maybe slightly unrelated, but like the group that got together to watch the MLS All-Star game, Bruno Damiani spoke about it on the Dupe, where like they were all chuckling and making fun of Kai because he did his bullshit what the F at a referee during the All-Star game because a throw-in went the wrong way. And like that's sort of like what this group is like nowadays. It's just so, again, so tight knit and different that maybe it's felt over the years, and maybe it's because this was such an interesting season with very little to write on per se. If obviously the national media didn't really care, us specifically, Todd, I think you and I and some others were very quick to say, like, there's no way that last year was the standard, right? Like, there's no way that it becomes a repeat. It's pretty sure that, like, if Andre stays healthy and maybe they move on from Oliver Semla to maybe let Rick do a little bit more of the playing, there's no way the team can be as bad as last year. It was just telling that just needed one or two more players to get this done. And again, the amount of effort that goes behind researching, vetting, and making sure that the character fits the build, because these guys and honestly, this team could go and find players from every whatever league and sign whoever they want. Granted, they have the money for it and bring them in, but the reality is, like, will they fit? Like, I hate to say it, and maybe there's more to the story. I'd love to hear more, but like, Jose Riasco didn't fit, right? So a physical specimen for sure. I've got a chance to meet him in person twice in between loans, and he grew so many inches in between because he's still a teenager. But like, it just isn't. This isn't FIFA manager mode. This isn't football manager where you can just click and say, yeah, it'll work. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. I think it gets lost in the fan base.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else you want to say about the Union winning the Supporter Shield? Last night's game against New York City before we get into blunder of the week, and then we do have a couple things we want to mention at the end of the show. In hour 31, I told you guys on Twitter this is going to be our longest episode. I mean, look, the Union won the Supporter Shield 2 times now in the last 5 years. You guys knew this was going to be a long show, so I appreciate everybody that's commented, everybody that stayed through the whole thing. Maybe you stayed for 5 seconds. We appreciate you guys, and it's 10:41. I know Jose and I are both extremely tired, and as you guys are as well, I am sure. So anything, Jose, you want to add before we go to blunder of the week?
I'm gonna take my press hat off for a second and maybe revert back a little bit, as the times that I was very much a fan. This Shield was a very special moment to be able to be in the press box and watch it. I know there's a lot of press members who probably look down upon me saying this, but like, it was one of those very proud moments, right? Like, we spend a lot of time watching and covering and relaying stories, or working. I certainly do, like, working my phone in terms of like, hey, I heard this little nugget, and just like start working my phone and figuring out, obviously talking about transfers and different things that I know could and will happen that I ultimately end up reporting on. We spend a lot of time away from our families. We spend a lot of time away from reality thinking about this club. And I think just last night was one of those moments where it's just so gratifying to sort of see it in person. I'm so glad I was able to find a babysitter for my youngest, Benicio, to be able to be with. It was one of those moments that I'm glad that I can just never forget about, because I was there in person rather than just seeing it through a screen. Never mind being able to help out with the article that came out on it on MLS, and just, helping out bits and pieces. Just a very validating moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I got a text. I was playing golf this morning, and I checked my phone while playing golf, and somebody had sent me a text and said, congratulations on being a part of this by having the best Union podcast there is. And I responded a couple hours later. I was like, thanks, but I had nothing to do with this. And I don't know. I mean, there are people out there that do appreciate the work we do, and there's so many other people that do great work as well. Kyle and Jillian Almany, which I have no clue how they have as much time as they do to cover Union 2, the Academy, the first team. Mike Barrera covering the Union, doing his podcast too. Very grateful for the invite all the time. Mike allows me to hop on the podcast, whether it's a right after the game reaction live show, whether it's a halftime show. Jose, you're part of that show as well. You guys, fantastic content, having Ray Dunn on the podcast as your latest guest. Jimmy King with PSN. You have Matt Ralph and the guys at Philadelphia Soccer Now, right? Yeah, it is Philadelphia Soccer Now.
There's so many people to name, honestly.
Yeah, so many. I mean, so many guys, and you guys know the guys who've been on the beat for the longest time, and yeah, definitely grateful to have a look behind the scenes and see just how this is a well-oiled machine. And you mentioned at the beginning of the show, Jose, where yeah, even the people that are small, that don't get the recognition that work for the club and keep this thing going. Literally everybody has a role to play, and I hope people in the organization feel like they're being valued, that they feel like their job matters. Because looking from the outside in, having a small peek into that window and seeing all the different jobs that make this club tick, definitely makes me have a greater appreciation than I did where it was just, okay, I'm going to the game as a fan, then I'm leaving. It's like, wow, a lot goes on behind the scenes. And so speaking on going on behind the scenes, well, we're all aware of the club that Bradley Cornell came from prior to Philadelphia. No, I'm not talking about New York Red Bulls. I'm talking about St. Louis City. So I do feel a little bit bad mentioning this moment, giving Blunder of the Week out to somebody that's done incredible work for Tudin and all over the years and everything. Just really been a staple covering Liga MX, MLS, and really helping up MLS. But last night, Michel Giannone interviewed Bradley Cornell. The last question that he asked was about St. Louis. And Bradley Cornell did not want to talk about St. Louis at all. The whole clip lasted 9 minutes. And very, very just strange question to ask after the Union won MLS Cup. Sorry, not yet. The Supporters Shield. Just such a weird question to ask. I mean, on one hand, I understand, but there's a time and the place. Like, the emotions are high. Like, he wants to take in the moment with his current team. So why are we asking about St. Louis City? So for the people that were in Subaru Park, haven't seen this clip, it's been going around on social media. This is the clip.
Lastly, and I'll let you go celebrate, the way things ended in St. Louis for you personally. Okay.
Not good. Yeah, not good. Yeah, not good.
Yeah, 3 not goods. I mean, not good at all. And again, there's no hate on my end. Michel does a fantastic job. I mean, for years and years and years, lifting up MLS and really trying to reach into the Hispanic culture. It's something you've talked about for years, Jose, saying the Union need to do more, getting Hispanics, Latinos into the Philadelphia Union. And Michel's done a fantastic job getting them into MLS. But it's like, why are you asking that question? Like, he's not with St. Louis anymore. He's with the Philadelphia Union. He's literally in his first season lifting a trophy. Why are we asking about St. Louis City? And credit to Bradley Cornell for walking away and giving no comment. Like, credit to Bradley Cornell. I would have been annoyed too, and he handled that situation perfectly. I'm not putting you on the spot to make a comment about this, Jose, but I thought the whole thing was just strange. Like, why ask about St. Louis City, where Cornell obviously doesn't want to talk about it? And I think that there's been moments like where people have asked about St. Louis City, and he just doesn't want to talk about it. And let him enjoy the moment.
Yeah, I think this is where I get the journalistic mentality behind it, right? There's a story to be told there. There's I mean, Todd, you and I would be lying if we didn't want to know more. If we said that we wouldn't want to know more about what actually happened. Is that accurate, Todd? Like I would like to hear more selfishly. Maybe you don't. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but like I would love to hear more.
Of course,
Uh,
it's human nature. People are
right.
curious.
But when you think about the moment and the context and the emotion behind the evening and everything that just transpired over the past 90 plus minutes, never mind halftime and the lead up to it and the week and gosh, all these makeup games because of the Club World Cup, where at one point the Union needed to win and then some, and then Chicago shocks Miami, and sort of how that flips the entire mentality and momentum of the leading into the game, never mind the game itself. I don't I hate to say that the question was inappropriate, but it's one of those questions where local press like you and I and the many people who follow this team, us probably more than others, that really know what's going on in terms of what Bradley responds well to, what Bradley doesn't respond well to, what he actually wants to talk about, what he actually detests talking about, could have told MLS Season Pass, who were the folks behind the camera, never mind Janon there asking the question, that this question is not going to fly. You're going to get a very embarrassing moment, or just not a great moment at all, that's going to be recorded and passed along, never mind retweeted, quote tweeted. I haven't checked other social media platforms. It's really irrelevant, but like it's just one of those questions where, like, yeah, you may have a producer in your ear asking you to ask that question, but like don't bother, because you're not going to get the reaction or the answer that you want. So it is what it is. I do agree with you that maybe it does fall under blunder of the week. But I get it, both sides of the equation. As someone who is a part-time employee of MLSsoccer.com, I get both sides of it.
Yeah, and I will say the last thing I'll say about it is that I'm seeing arguments from both sides. It's like, usually when you see things that are controversial, it seems like you see more of, okay, yeah, people are following the right road, where people are defending the question or whatnot. And in this case, it seems like it's split down the middle. And I think there is some bias because people are friends with Michel and everything. And like I said, I mean, he's done such great work over the years, just uplifting MLS and wanting to talk about MLS. But at the same time, it's like, there's a time and the place, and in my opinion, that was not the time or the place to ask about St. Louis after. I don't even think Cornell had lifted the supporter shield yet, right? They were bringing it out, and yeah, I mean, just let him enjoy the moment. Ask after the end of the season or something, and he probably still won't say. But yeah, that's what I want to bring up, and let's go ahead and land on a positive note, Jose, before we reach 2 hours. I was saving this for the end. I was like, do I want to talk about this now? Do I want to talk about this now? But it happens every podcast, Jose. When we get close to ending, we start drawing in a lot of listeners onto the show. And so 415 people watching live right now. And so for me,
you guys are dummies watching
2 hours listening to the podcast. I mean, I know Michael said at the beginning of the show he's driving back from Virginia. So hopefully we've helped his drive go by so much quicker. And
could have made it to Harrisburg by now, dude.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm hoping that we're giving you good entertainment, Michael, and hopefully you're almost home. But for me last night, yeah, it was awesome seeing the Union lift the supporter shield, seeing just so many happy people out there. But for me, honestly, this was the greatest moment. Seeing Nathan Harriel, I believe, was the player that brought out Holden Trent's jersey, and he's done such a good job. Phil Wedding's done such a good job just letting people not forget about Holden Trent. And you remember they had the 13 painted in the grass. I forget what game it was, and I do kind of wish they would have left that the remainder of the season. But a player that I don't think, did he play one appearance for the Union? Maybe no appearances for the Union. He featured for Union too, I know that, but to see a player that primarily played with Union 2, yes, he had a first team contract, still be celebrated and ingrained, and they still have his lockers set up in Subaru Park. It's a pretty special moment. And shout out to Nathan Harriel for not letting people ever forget about Holden Trent. And I know him and Phil went down to High Point with the celebration of life for Holden and everything. And yeah, you can tell that they were moved by the passing of Holden last year, and just any opportunity they have to make Holden still a part of this team. It's a pretty special moment last night, Jose.
Yeah, he made 16 appearances per transfer market with Union 2, 0 with the main team. And a couple of points I wanted to bring up super quickly. I've obviously done a lot of messages for the foundation. People from the foundation itself and those around it reach out to me to sort of, thank me for sort of keeping that going and sort of appreciate it. But the golf tournament is completely sold out on October 10th. So don't even try if you're planning on being in North Carolina or you are in North Carolina like Mark Kelkenberg and the rest of his family. Not going to happen. Can't get in there anymore. However, the Kicks for a Cause social event is still ongoing. That'll be this coming Friday. And then ultimately the Goal 13 Foundation, which is the overall arm of the fundraising side and the philanthropic side. The store's open. You can buy gear with the Goal 13 to honor Holden. And the reality is that all the profits benefit the foundation. And the first cohort of the educational service of the foundation is ongoing. So all of that work that went into getting it going is already happening for student athletes that need that help. So learn more. Just Todd, I'm sure you will make sure to put the links on the description, etc. But please make sure that you support it if you can. If you're in a position to share some of your wealth, great. But I know that there's opportunities to share your time and knowledge with those students that may need it.
Yeah, and people that don't want to click on the link, it's goal13foundation.org. And yeah, very, very well done website. Talks about the life of Holden, like Jose had mentioned, volunteering events, programs, events, news, the shop you had mentioned, Jose. Yeah, just love to see the memory of Holden Trent still alive. And that's a huge credit, like I said, to Nathan Harriel, Phil Wedden, who I know are big figureheads leading that front for the Union, but an organization, a team as a whole, just being involved. But yeah, such a nice moment last night with them bringing out Holden's jersey, and just shout out Brandon Comiskey too, because this is this year's goalie jersey, right? And Holden obviously wasn't on the team, and still to go out and to make this jersey and everything, just to never have Holden forgotten. Pretty special moment, and that's what makes this club really special. So yeah, we want to talk about that, where we knew that we would have a lot of people listening. And again, you have the opportunity to donate, volunteer if you're able to, goal13foundation.org. But an hour 48, longest podcast I've ever done in my life. And thank you for everybody that's listening to this podcast. I am so tired. This podcast won't get edited until tomorrow morning, 12 midnight.
Next week.
Yeah, next week. Well, yeah, I mean, people are going to be asking me about the goals breakdown video, and I do feel bad that I didn't write anything, and maybe I'll write an article or something during the week. I don't know. But I want to get the podcast out. Do want to do a goals breakdown video, and I don't know. That's how you guys know me, is the podcast. And so that does take priority over everything else. So again, so many people commenting tonight, so many people listen to this silly thing, and your support means a lot. And so I'm glad you guys got to enjoy a supporter shield last night. I'm super happy that you guys support both the work that Jose and I do and so many others. But Jose, if people don't know where to find you yet, which is still crazy to me, if they have no clue who you are, they're like, who's this guy? Just listen to the podcast for Todd. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Jose R. Nunes 91 on Twitter, and there in my profile, you can find everything you need to find me.
Yeah, and if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get the podcast of The Free Kick, check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod. Wherever you get the podcast of The Free Kick. Live every single podcast on YouTube, goals breakdown videos as well. And then thefreekick.substack.com for the goals breakdown videos, articles, and the podcast all in one place. 11 p.m. almost. 10 more seconds. So thank you again, guys, for sticking through with us. I am tired, and we'll see what we do the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the next Union game. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have good news to talk about with the under 20s. Frankie Westfield's balling out with the U.S. So
They play Italy.
maybe we do something about that. So Italy, Jose just said, and it's a big game. Defeated France 3-0. Frankie Westfield, huge game. So yes, landing the episode on a lot of positivity, lots and lots of good news happening in Philadelphia with the Philadelphia Union. Let's hope that the Phillies can turn around tomorrow against the Dodgers. Heartbreaking loss last night because there's nobody for me to cheer for. So let's go Phils. So with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.